In this video, we will demonstrate how to create a virtual service for development and testing when the service does not exist. Typically, when the software development process begins, reliance on incomplete software components can slow down development and testing. Using service virtualization, we will virtualize a service to mimic the real service to continue development and testing efforts. In our scenario, the development team has provided sample messages in the form of a text file containing a valid SOAP request and a valid SOAP response. Within HP Service Virtualization, we'll click Design Virtual Service from our Getting Started templates here, and we're going to begin creating our project by selecting I don't have a service description. This will allow us to choose the appropriate options. We click Next, and in this case, we want to use SOAP over HTTP/HTTPS. We'll select that and then click Next to begin filling in the settings. First, our server will be using our embedded server within Service Virtualization, and we'll be using the HTTP gateway as our agent. For our path, we're going to be using HP flights _ SOAP. And for our endpoint, we're going to be using http://ALM training 7200 HP flights _ SOAP, which will point to our virtual service URL. By clicking Next, we can see what the settings are going to be and then virtualize the service and thus creating the project. Service virtualization will give us the appropriate information to reconfigure our clients that we're going to be using to connect to this service. Click OK to close this message, and we'll be presented with our data model so that we can begin building our virtual service. Now, within our data set, we first need to create a new rule to handle the particular request and response data that we have been supplied to us. This is in a text file here with our request and our response that we can utilize within this rule. So within Service Virtualization, we click New Rule, go down to Blank Rule, and we'll give it a name of Imported Data Set. Okay, and this particular rule will be expanded by clicking on the arrow here to allow us to import the messages that we have been supplied. To do so, we right-click anywhere in this area and do Import Message. This will bring up the Import Message dialog box where we can import all the messages, but first we do need to save our changes before continuing. The top half of this interface will put the request message, and the bottom half will put the response message. So we'll go to our sample message file that we've been given by software development, and we'll copy the request and paste it here and do the same with the response, which is going to be a series of flights in our HP Flights application from Denver to Los Angeles. And we can see here from the XML that our departure city is set to Denver and our arrival city is set to Los Angeles. Once we've done that, click OK to apply this import to our data rules here. So within Service Virtualization, we see we have a total of 3 rules. The first is Imported Dataset. The second is Learn Data. And the third is default response. Now, we didn't learn any services here, so this one will be empty. But our default response will handle any responses that Service Virtualization does not recognize. And it consists of a bunch of SIM messages, SIM default airlines, default arrival city, and so on. Okay, so now that we've gotten this set up, we can go in and begin our simulation by going to the ALM Training Service tab and click Simulate. So now this service is now up and running, our virtual service at this particular endpoint here, ALM Training, Port 7200 HP Flight SOAP. We'll just copy that to the clipboard. Because now what we're going to do is we're going to utilize SOAP UI to make a call to this service to make sure that it actually works. So what we'll do is we'll bring up SOAP UI and do a new SOAP project and paste, we'll just call it SOAP test. And we'll paste our initial WSDL URL for that particular service that we're simulating here and click OK. SOAP UI immediately recognizes the service and it gives us our get flights call that we're going to be using for this particular test. I'm going to right click on this and do new request Leave the default name of request 1 for these demo purposes. And you'll see that we now have a sample input message with question marks here. I'm going to just go ahead and try to run this now. And you'll see that we have our sim default messages because we don't have a valid city here. We don't have a valid city that Service Virtualization will recognize. So now we've got all these default messages. So let's change this message in SOAP UI to be from Denver to Los Angeles. And we'll click play. And lo and behold, we have a list of our flights that we have supplied in our data model. And this is exactly what we expect. So we have successfully built a service in Service Virtualization, a virtual service. So now that we can create test harnesses, we can create our development hooks into this virtual service to continue our software development process and not be hindered by lack of services that are available to us. We can simulate them using Service Virtualization.